Amara had always been a devoted woman, seeking solace in her faith after years of hardship. Life as a tailor in Lagos was tough, but Amara found joy in her small church community. They were her family, especially after the untimely death of her parents. One Sunday morning, after service, her life took an unexpected turn. As she greeted members of the congregation, a tall, broad-shouldered man with a warm smile approached her. "Sister Amara, the choir speaks so highly of your talent. I've heard about your work with the underprivileged as well," he said, extending his hand. "Thank you, Pastor Tony," Amara replied, her cheeks warming at his praise. Pastor Tony had recently relocated from Port Harcourt and taken over as head pastor of their church. He was a magnetic speaker, his sermons brimming with charisma and insight. The church attendance doubled within weeks of his arrival, and Amara, like many others, was inspired by his teachings. Tony's interest in Amara soon became evident. He often sought her out after church, asking about her charity projects and tailoring business. He encouraged her to pursue bigger goals, promising to support her financially and spiritually. "Every great woman deserves a strong man of God by her side," he said one evening as they sat under the stars during a church outreach event. His words filled Amara with a hope she hadn't felt in years. Her friends teased her about the attention Tony was giving her, but she brushed it off, thinking nothing could come of it. After all, he was a pastor, a man devoted to his ministry. But Tony was persistent. He visited her shop, bringing her lunch and praying with her staff. When he finally asked her to dinner, she hesitated only briefly. By the end of their first date, Amara was smitten. Within 6 months, they were married in a grand ceremony. The entire church community celebrated their union, calling it a match made in heaven. Tony seemed perfect, kind, attentive, and deeply spiritual. Their honeymoon phase was blissful. Tony's devotion to Amara seemed unshakable. But as months passed, cracks began to appear. Tony often received phone calls at odd hours, stepping out of the room to answer them. When Amara asked, he would dismiss her concerns with a smile. "Church matters, my love. You know how it is." But his vague answers and increasingly secretive behavior left Amara uneasy. Once, she noticed he had 2 phones, though he only ever used one around her. When she asked about the second phone, he laughed it off, saying it was for church emergencies. One evening, Tony returned home later than usual. He smelled faintly of alcohol, something Amara found odd for a man who preached about the dangers of worldly vices. "Long day at the church," he said before retreating to the bathroom. Amara noticed his briefcase, lying open on the bed. Inside, along with his sermon notes, was a bundle of cash. It wasn't the first time she'd seen large amounts of money, with no explanation. When she asked, Tony claimed it was a donation from a wealthy church member. "God's blessings come in many forms," he said, kissing her on the forehead. Her suspicions grew until one day, while cleaning, she found a small, locked suitcase hidden in their wardrobe. The moment she opened it, her world crumbled. Inside were stacks of cash, foreign passports with Tony's photograph under different names, and a ledger filled with cryptic entries. The codes and dates hinted at something far darker than church business. That evening, when Tony left for a prayer vigil, Amara followed him. She borrowed her cousin's car, parking discreetly outside a nondescript warehouse on the outskirts of Lagos. There, she watched in disbelief as her husband oversaw men loading crates into a van. Through her barely rolled-down window, she overheard Tony barking orders. "Make sure this shipment reaches Ghana by morning. No mistakes this time." Her heart pounded. Tony wasn't just leading a double life. He was a dangerous drug lord. The next day, Amara confronted him. Holding up one of the foreign passports, she demanded answers. "Who are you, Tony? Or should I call you Daniel Okafor?" Tony's demeanor shifted. The warmth in his eyes vanished, replaced by an icy calm. "You wouldn't understand, Amara. The church is just a cover. It funds what I do, and what I do keeps us comfortable." Amara trembled with a mixture of fear and anger. "Comfortable? This is blood money, Tony. How could you deceive me, deceive God?" Tony leaned in close, his voice low and menacing. "Don't push me, Amara. You're my wife. Stay in your lane, and we'll both be fine." That night, while Tony was out, Amara packed her belongings and left their home, her heart heavy with betrayal and fear. She didn't want revenge or a scandal. All she wanted was peace and freedom from the web of lies her marriage had become. She moved in with her sister, determined to rebuild her life quietly. But Pastor Tony wasn't one to leave loose ends. When he returned to an empty house and found Amara gone, he panicked. He knew she had seen too much. Fearing she might expose his double life, Tony made a chilling decision. He ordered a hit on her. A week later, as Amara walked home from her tailoring shop, a masked man approached her on a quiet street. Just as he reached for a weapon, a passing motorist stopped to help what they assumed was a distressed woman. Startled, the attacker fled, leaving Amara shaken but unharmed. Realizing the depth of Tony's ruthlessness, Amara decided she couldn't stay silent any longer. She went to the police with the evidence she had found: his passports, the cash, and the ledger. The authorities immediately launched an investigation, and Amara was placed under protective custody. The case quickly became a media sensation. A popular pastor doubling as a feared drug kingpin was a story that gripped the nation. News outlets detailed Tony's secret operations, his betrayal of the church, and his attempt to silence his own wife. In a carefully orchestrated sting operation, the police arrested Tony during what he thought was a routine meeting with his cartel associates. The evidence against him was overwhelming, thanks in large part to Amara's bravery. Though the ordeal left her deeply scarred, Amara found strength in knowing she had helped bring a dangerous man to justice. She resumed her tailoring business, her story inspiring many to stand against deception and fear. Tony's downfall served as a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that evil can lurk behind even the most righteous facades. For Amara, the journey was painful, but it marked the beginning of a new chapter, one of healing, resilience, and hope. If you like this story, kindly like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. We'd like to hear from you. Drop a comment on what you think about this story.
See you next time.